Hey everyone, the name is Erik Thor, and in today's video we're talking about the INFP dark side. And the first question is, do INFPs have a dark side? Because the INFP portrait on the 16 personalities is highly idealized. It shows the picture of a true idealist, a true dreamer. How could a dreamer have a dark side? How could an idealist have a dark side? And if they have one, what would it be like, right? Well, now, the first thing we have to remember is that perhaps it is we that are idealizing the INFP personality traits. Perhaps it's we that are giving too much importance to these kind of qualities. Certainly, these are good qualities to be had, but certainly on their own, alone, these could be bad qualities if they are pursued in the wrong way, right? And here, we have to remember that history is colored by a lot of idealism that ended up having terrible consequences for a lot of people. And for example, many ideas which have very positive premises tend to go very, very wrong, such as the idea of, for example, communism and its application. This brings up a question: why do these ideas fail and why do they end up so badly? The first thing we have to consider is what happens if a person has the right mindset and the right values but lacks the competence to execute their ideas and values correctly. For example, we can have a good principle of fairness or equality or freedom, but what if we don't know how to build systems that implement these values the right way? Or what if we reject systems outright and don't have any method or strategy or plan to execute our vision? And this brings up the INFP dark side. The INFP dark side might just be that INFPs don't always know how to execute or implement their values or how to act on their feelings. And so many INFPs spend a lot of time introspecting and wondering and asking themselves, what is it I want? What is it I feel? What is it I like? What is it I care about? What is it that is important to me? What is it that is my purpose, right? But imagine now that you know all these things. You got all the answers to those questions, but now you look out in the world and you think, how do I manifest this in the world? How do I organize my life around these values? How do I build my life around these principles? How do I make sure that the outer world is a reflection of my inner world? And a lot of INFPs don't really get to this point, right? So a lot of INFPs never really know how to get forward from this. And there is a reason for this. The simple reason for this is their extroverted thinking remains in the unconscious, remains dormant, remains an important force in their life that they have yet to learn how to effectively wield or use in the outer world. And here, the answer is a lot of the time INFPs have a suspicion towards their own values and their own convictions. While yes, you do believe in your own convictions, while yes, you do feel this it is right, you don't know it is right? Because it's a feeling that has been given to you by a situation or by your experience or what you have observed and had and experienced so far. And now a common question is, what if I act on my values and create my dream life, but what if I'm not happy with the result, right? And so this kind of a self-doubt can easily make many INFPs feel that maybe they shouldn't become artists or musicians, or maybe they shouldn't pursue their dreams or hobbies, or maybe they shouldn't go out and live and date the person that they are wanting to date. And so perhaps they'll just let that person they want to date be a fantasy in their head, an imagined relationship, an imagined amazing experience, right? Because perhaps that imagination, perhaps that experience is better than reality. Perhaps in reality, things are not as good as they would have been in my mind, right? Now, the common reason for this is a kind of authoritarian perfectionism. Like all personality types can struggle, INFPs can struggle with wanting to maintain a kind of dictatorial structure in their mind, where they keep their dominant function in the dominant position at all times. The idea is that if I simply hold and maintain this kind of a system of belief that is highly idealized without acting on it, perhaps, I'll have some kind of balance in my mind, and I will avoid inner conflict, and I will avoid struggle, because these things might confront my values and might undermine my leadership and my authority as an INFP, right? So you're fixating on being the dreamer, but you're trying to be the dreamer in every situation, in every possible way, and you're rejecting any form of dysentery inside by, for example, engaging in power, because the idea is then if I engage in and assume power and empower myself and take actions to get myself towards that dream, perhaps I corrupt my dream, perhaps my dream becomes tarnished by this idea, by this function, extroverted thinking, which I believe to be bad or malicious or wrong or misguided, right? And here, INFPs will resign themselves to living unhappy lives because they simply fear the idea that extroverted thinking is a bad function. And here, what we have to question is our very premise. Is extroverted thinking really a bad function? Is power really a bad thing? That's not simply a human thing? Are not systems normal parts of human experience? Are these not functions? Are these not tools that I can use? Are these not things that we all can partake in? While certainly these tools can be used badly, while certainly power can be used in a bad way, while certainly power is going to have consequences, are consequences inherently bad things to have, right? So often when we think about it, it can be, what if I go up and talk to that girl that I'm interested in, or and I end up saying something stupid and I end up, hurting her feelings, or what if we get into a relationship but I end up doing something bad and, they're not happy anymore, or what if they do something bad, or what if, I take on that job and it doesn't turn out to be what I wanted that job to be, or what if I'm forced to do things that I want to do in this situation? Well, maybe I shouldn't do it then, right? So these are the kind of things that come up here. And so when we think about the dark side in the INFP, what we're seeing here is somebody that is refusing to take responsibility, right? Because the INFP then in this situation refuses to take responsibility, refuses to be the one in charge, refuses to be the one that takes this job. So somebody else takes the job, somebody else goes and asks out the girl, somebody else goes and does all these things, right? And the INFP here is standing in a valley of missed opportunities, right? And other people end up contributing to these systems and going on living, because why not? Why shouldn't they? That's completely their prerogative to do, to use the systems available to them, to go and take the opportunities that you didn't take, to go and do the things that they do, even if they do it worse than you, even if they end up making a mess out of it, even if they don't do the job as well as you would have, even if they don't have the right heart or values or conviction, or even if they don't know what the right heart or right values or convictions are, right? These are just things that everyone will want to have and will want to seek out. And INFPs then become, in a sense, secretly complicit in this, because, well, they end up being too passive, and they end up being in a position where, they let the bad guys win. They let other people do the mistakes. They let other people, do things. And the INFP here doesn't have to take any responsibility for anything, right? They can just, blame the other people. Yeah, the powers, the people in power are corrupt. The men are like this, and women are always like that, and, this is always like this. And here, it's a tendency to, blame the outer world in a sense, because you don't have to take responsibility because you never did anything. And so, we have to ask ourselves is not the person that is silent also complicit? Is not the person that didn't do anything also a part of the problem? Well, of course they are, right? So that's the dark side of the INFP. And so every INFP should ask themselves, was I too silent today? Was there something I should have done that I could have taken responsibility for? Was there something is there something I can do right now that would help me move forward for what I want? Is there something I could do to allow me to, implement my values and implement and do the things that I do? And, as an INFP, I know that's not an easy thing to do. I can imagine that as an INFP, you might find yourself thinking, but what if I do make the wrong mistakes? And how do I manage responsibility? And how do I forgive myself for mistakes? And how do I, overcome, incompetence? And how do I learn to do and deal with systems that I don't know how they work? And how do I get through the stress and anxiety that can come from using extroverted thinking? And how do I manage confrontation if I start putting myself forward and start standing up for myself, right? And so these are questions that, I hope to answer in future videos. Thank you so much for watching, and see you all in the next video.